You've been wrong, though. All right, we are live. Well, welcome everybody to the Philly Blitz Pod number 16. Very special episode. It's our first episode with somebody from a competing team inside the NFC. We have Brandon Olsen. I know him from Locked On Gators, but he works with Sports Illustrated for the Giants. I'm also here with Pierre and Quell. How you guys all doing today?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. Excited to be back with you guys as a full unit.
Sir.
Dub. I can give you guys a much more exciting entrance today. The other day it was not really pleasant. Sports wasn't treating me too well. Um, I wouldn't say sports is treating me any better now based on the current circumstances, but we'll touch on that in a few.
And what about you, Brandon? How you doing?
I'm just bracing for the absolute worst this weekend. That's all I'm doing. I am very much a hope for the best, prepare for the worst guy, and that's definitely not changing.
I was about to say, I mean, the whole season had to be that, right? Just what can go wrong, what can go right. Let's just go on for the ride.
Every season is like that with the Giants. It's just like, hey man, I'm ready for this to just crash and burn.
Oh man, dude, this is funny. I was messaging Brandon about it because he has a Discord for Locked On Gators, and in it, a lot of people accuse him of being a sunshine pumper, and just always seeing the bright side of stuff. And I was like, it'll be exciting to see if you're like that with the Giants. And he was like, no, I feel no positivity with the Giants, only negativity. So it's kind of funny to see the two sides of that. But anyways, obviously this has been a very eventful week in football. We all saw something happen that was really unfathomable, and obviously we're talking about the injury to Damar. I'm blanking on his last name right now.
Damar Hamlin.
I wanted to say Wilson. Maybe that was wrong. Damar Hamlin. In the game on Monday night, he had a heart attack on the field after what really looked like a normal hit. It didn't look like anything crazy. A lot of times in football, you see hits and you're like, oh, you kind of look away and you're hoping everything is all right. And we've seen a lot of injuries in football, but this was obviously just something different. And it was something that no one it was totally unforeseen, and that's why they had to postpone the game. And now there's all sorts of ramifications, but we had all kind of discussed that we wanted to take some time to speak about Damar, and obviously since the incident, there's been positive reports that are really great to see. They even said that last night he's still intubated, but he has a breathing tube, but he's been writing, and they even said that when he came to, he asked if they won the game, and he didn't even realize that he'd been out for 2 days. So a lot of credit to the emergency staff on the Bills and the Bengals. The doctor said that as well, that it looks like Damar has everything working in his head, and that's extremely fortunate, and that is a testament to the work that they did on the field and their quick action. But what are your guys' reactions to everything? How are you guys feeling? What are you guys thinking about?
Yeah, man, I think for me, it just really kind of like exposed the fragility of life. Like, things can go south in the blink of an eye. It really, for me, like I was watching the game with my mom, and like, her being a mom, she's like, oh, I'm trying not to get emotional and everything like that. And it's just like I said, the fragility of life, cherish the moments that you have with your loved ones, and, because you never know when the last one's going to be.
I mean, for me, it kind of I was pretty stuck for a while watching it because it kind of hit me in a multitude of a bunch of different ways, and I was trying to figure out exactly how to look at it, but it was just hard to get a grasp, understanding of exactly what I just seen. I tried to look at it as a fan. I tried to look at it as a person who played the game at a point in time. I try to look at it as a man who's recently married and would look forward to having kids in the future who I would love to see play the game. But when you see things like this, it's like, how could you want your kids to play something like it's so violent. It's and they say it's a gladiator sport, and I mean, who am I to sit here and say it like that? Because I'd be lying to you if I tell you I don't watch the game on Sundays and I see a big hit and I say ooh boom, and I love it. It's a part of the game. It's a part of what made me fall in love with the game in the first place. But just when you having to take things into perspective the way it is right now, it's like that could have been anybody. It's sad that it had to be him, but that how do you? I don't understand. I'm glad the league canceled the game. I heard there was something about some 5 minute. Now I know Troy Vincent came out and acted as if he didn't know anything about it. Now, based on my knowledge of the circumstances, it sounds like that's typical protocol for the referees. Like whether it's a delay for the weather, injury, anything of that nature. It seems like that's the 5 minute thing is typically the rule. So I wouldn't say he didn't know about it, but again, in a situation of this circumstance, it wasn't going to be able to go on like that. So first, I want to say hat tip to Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott for doing the right thing, man. It it leaves me pretty speechless, man. I'm just glad to see he's doing well. It just looked like a normal hit. I don't understand how we got here, but I mean, I guess that just goes to show you the measures of this game.
Yeah, that's really all it is. Like when it happened, like the first thing I started talking about, because I used to work in like financial stuff, and like the first thing I started talking about was what Garrett Bush, who like the video started going viral, him talking about how like the new CPA, like they shafted the players with all that stuff. Like it's like they talk about how they cut all the benefits. Like that's something where I used to work in finance, and I used to talk to players and agents, and I'd be like, hey, like the new CBA, because when I was working there, it was like right after the new CBA came in. I was just like, the new CBA like shafted players. Like it just completely screwed you over. I was like, the NFL doesn't care about you. And so that was like the thing I was thinking of. Like if he can't play again, that's it. Like I wanted to know what would happen with teams like if the Bills would just be like, hey man, like we'll pay out the rest of your contract still, and we'll keep you on or whatever it would be. But yeah, the first thing that I thought of was like, if he's or like whatever happens with his health, like how's he going to be taken care of? Because obviously his life could be very different. Obviously we know that they say, hey, best case is that he'll be back to normal, but you can't really tell that right now. So I was just like, how will he be taken care of?
Just to add to that a little bit for those who don't know. So what he was saying about the new CBA or the most recent CBA, it goes a lot deeper than just the Mars situation. Like even when you talk about Social Security and the way they treat some of these the older players of the league, players who aren't in the league anymore. Like this deal really did a number on all of them, and just in particularly to Demar, like I was just getting into. I understand that I think the rule is you have to be in the league 3 or 4 years in order to get that check. That like basically that you played in the league, the continuation check. He's only been in the league 2 years. And I know his contract or his base salary, I don't know if it's for as a whole or a contract or just for this season, but his base salary was just under $1 million. Like it's like 800 something. So it's not like he was making any massive type of money. So if his career was to be over today or tomorrow, he like, and let's not even get into the fact of the medical situations that he may or may not have to deal with. His family is in a terrible position. He's in a terrible and the league won't care. That's the worst part about it. The league won't care.
Yeah, I think DeMar's contract last year was 800,000. This one I think is 842,000. He had a signing bonus, I think 160,000. It's like that's not a lot. Like that's not life sustaining money at that point when DeMar, I'm pretty sure, is 24.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not going to last you forever.
And the question on top of that is, oh, go ahead.
You good, bro?
I was just gonna say, like, we're talking about, the money that he's making right now, but he stepped into a starting role this year. You know, he was playing well. You know, we can't even account the type of money he could have made, right? You know, it's easy to play those games, but you know, it's definitely a strong possibility considering you know, his play this year and just that, you know, he was showing signs of growth, and especially the Bills organization, they like to keep in-house talent. So, you know, it's just it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. What were you going to say, Pierre?
Yeah, just touching on the financial side of things, like that was one of the other things that sort of kind of like crept into my mind. Is just like look around at the other professional sports leagues, like the NBA, MLB, they all have guaranteed contracts. I feel like the NFL is the only one where only a portion of your contract is guaranteed. And you know, Quell, you talked about the gladiator type nature of the sport. You would think if it's any sport that would have guaranteed contracts, it'd be the NFL.
Yeah, man,
Absolutely.
that's why I like to think. And of course, this isn't about him. I don't want to try to change the subject or make a situation about anything this isn't about. But I feel like that's what's going to be so important about the Lamar Jackson decision this offseason. Like, if I'm Lamar, I'm not taking another snap for Baltimore this year. I don't care if the team makes the playoffs or not, because he deserves every dollar. He and every other player in this league deserves every dollar that they work for. And the way they get treated by some of these teams is a lot of these teams, not even just some. It's the entire league. It's kind of ridiculous. Like even us as Eagles fans, we laud Howie Roseman for his salary cap management and things of that nature. It that thing, some most of it comes on the expense of somebody on the back end at some point. That's
It's
why
like at
players
the
like Jason Kelsey said when he said, "Oh, the team said they want to give me money now instead of later." Okay, I'll take it because you never know. Next year
Mhm.
come, you don't play as good, and you getting cut.
It's
It's
like
a
at
tough
the end of the
business.
day, you know, we still have to remember that these are people, you know, the contracts and, you know, talk about the salary cap and all these things. These are people, living, breathing people.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's easy to just get caught up in football performance. You'd be like, "Oh my god, dude, I'm so glad he got cut," you know, like, or so glad he got traded. But um, you know, it is. It's people's livelihoods. It's people's lives, and there's a lot that goes into it. So you know, obviously prayers up to Demar and his family. Hope his recovery continues. From all accounts, it seems like he's all mentally there, which again is really like it. That's amazing, you know. And he's on his way to recovery, and the dude's a fighter. You know, you read about his story. I mean, just being a 6th round pick, right? Like he was the number one player in the state of Pennsylvania in his class. Then he was a 6th round pick, and he's fought to keep his way on the roster. And so I think he'll continue to fight, and we'll continue to look out for updates. But do you guys have anything else to say about the topic?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, if you can, try to donate to this toy drive. I think
Yeah,
it's reached over $7 million.
Hmm.
it was
Yeah,
5.5 yesterday. That's
yeah,
crazy. Yeah,
When I
that's
heard
crazy.
about it this morning, just like Pierre said, I think it was about 7 million. So I like. I don't know what his name is. I don't mean to be disrespectful about it or anything, but like the guy on ESPN said, I think he was on First Take the other day. Let's get it over 10 million. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing. Like this, it's situations like this where, and it's sad that it has to get to this point, or that we had to get to this point, but that you realize what sports is about. And again, having a guy like you on today, Brandon, yeah, you on the other side, a Giants fan, we're Eagles fans, but all supposed to do is just rooting for the teams or the players we like, enjoying the sport that we love, man. It's never supposed to be anything ever bigger than that. And sometimes there are certain fans or certain people who take it deeper than it has to be. Just next time your favorite player drops a football or your kicker misses a game winning kick, I want you to think about this moment and understand that all of these people are human at the end of the day.
Well
well
said.
said.
Sorry. All right. So let's move on to the main part of the show, right? big game this weekend, rivalry game to end it all. You know, I was even thinking about this game when the schedule came out, and I was like, oh man, dude, I do not want the Giants last because I had a feeling that like there was gonna be something on this, and you never won a division game for the last game, dude. It's just it's too much stress. Teams don't like each other. Teams know each other too well, and we just know it's gonna be a whole process, and especially after last game where Jalen was able to fight some of the demons from last season and come out on top. There's a lot riding on this game, and try to keep perspective about where the Eagles are. If someone had said that we'd be 13 and 4 at this point, at 13 and 4, and we could lock up the 1 seed in with the last game, I'd be pretty happy. Last couple weeks have been hard, but let's try to keep perspective, except when it comes to JG. Well, no perspective when it comes to him. He gets no love. But I figure we'll start with just kind of looking at the injuries for this week, because as we know, Eagles have a pretty big player coming back on his way. Participated in walkthroughs
We like to
today.
hope.
Yeah, we like to hope. Yeah, that's very true. But all signs are pointing to him playing. They posted a video of him kind of going through drills, and it was really funny. Like they're going through ball security drills, and the coaches are like afraid to hit him. They like kind of tap him, and then Minshew comes and they just start whacking him with the pad. It was really funny to see the changeup. But it looks like Jalen's going to play, and then also on the injury report, Avante Maddox did not practice. Lane Johnson obviously did not practice, and neither did Josh Sweat. Also, glad Josh Sweat is okay. He tweeted from the hospital, but really, really scary moment last week as well. So glad to hear that he's doing better. James Bradbury, Giant great, was a limited participant, as was Sean Bradley. AJ Brown was just resting. So was James Bradbury. Fletcher rested. Landon rested. So those guys are resting. Brandon Graham played a lot of snaps last game. He got some rest. That's going to be something to monitor. The defensive end depth. Kelsey rested. Hurts was a limited participant as well. And then we have Samalu, Miles, and Slay resting. Well, Miles actually has something with his knee, and then Zach McPherson out with an illness. And then on the Giants side, as of today, Azeez Ojulari did not participate, and neither did Leonard Williams with an ankle and neck injury, respectively. And then limited was John Feliciano with a back injury and Adoree Jackson with a knee injury. Giants have Xavier McKinney back, who's a big difference on the back end for the Giants. He probably is their best player in the secondary, maybe even on the defense. So he's back, and Dexter Lawrence was back as well. Full participant was resting before. So Giants have some guys back. Some guys are banged up. But what's really going to be interesting to see is who's really going to play, when the weekend comes, because the Giants locked up the playoffs last week. So, when it comes to this, we were kind of talking about it off the air, but it's a little bit weird. If they can beat us and, keep their seeding, but they're helping the Cowboys, right? Or they can lose to us and they're helping us. So, there's a lot that goes into it, but what are you kind of thinking about what we might see from the Giants, Brandon?
I think that the approach should be, if a guy is less than like 90%, just sit him and try to get him healthy for the playoffs. I think that when you look at guys like Saquon or even Daniel Jones, it's like, don't hesitate to sit them if you want. Because like you said, like, oh yeah, like you can help your seating, you can change your seating, but none of that matters if these guys can't play in the playoffs. It doesn't matter what your seed is. If your two most impactful players on offense aren't playing, you're going to get mollywopped, especially when you're already an offense that isn't good. Simply put, you're just not a good offense. So I think that when you're looking at it, it also matters. I think, if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, maybe you feel a little more comfortable as the Giants going, yeah, we could sit a couple more guys. Or if Jalen Hurts does play and you are intent on winning this game, then it's go to the wall. But I think that if I'm the Giants, I'm sitting guys that aren't almost completely healthy, just because when it comes to playoffs, like, yeah, you want to beat the Eagles. You want to screw over the Cowboys or the Eagles. But ultimately, you have a playoff spot clinched up. If you do get an opportunity to play in the playoffs, you have to be healthy. You have to be ready to go. Like, even if Daniel Jones does play this week, I don't think you see him run the ball frequently. I think that he has to be smart about it going into playoffs. Again, as much as I've said I don't like Daniel Jones, I still don't. That hasn't changed. But he gives you the best chance to win right now. And so you have to keep him healthy, and he has to be aware enough to remain healthy and to remain cautious and safe.
Yeah,
So-
I too do not like Daniel Jones.
No one does. No one does.
Hey,
Hey, the Mannings like him. The Mannings like him.
I like Daniel
have to.
Jones. I don't think he's good, but I like him.
That make
He's
okay.
bad.
Sorry. What do you mean by like? Because like I know like he goes to like Hoboken and he plays beer pong, and it's like, yeah, that's awesome. Like I love it.
No.
But I don't want to be my starting quarterback.
I feel like okay, me personally, they give me a lot of flack about this because I mean, particularly with as Parth talked about with the whole Gannon thing. But I know personally, I have this mindset particularly because I'm a scout. So in heart, my whole thought process in life is I'm here to tell you what this player brings to a team and how we can use him and how he helps. We'll worry about what he can't do after that, but I'm here to tell you about that. So I like Daniel's skill set. I mean, that's why I was big on getting him with Dabble, like we talked about before we got on. I was big on getting him with Dabble because I knew if he had a coach that could put him in a proper situation. Well, I don't ever think Daniel will be some franchise savior, some guy who you ride to a Super Bowl championship or anything. I think he could be a solid bridge quarterback, a guy who can win you more than his fair share of games. At the same time, he's also going to lose you more than his fair share of games. You just have to understand what you have with Daniel and kind of protect him as best as possible, which is why you got guys like Saquon, guys like Wandale Moore, and hopefully you continue to add talent to the offense. But
I think we do know what we have in Daniel Jones. He's hashtag not good. Am I right, Pierre?
I mean, we gonna touch on that. We're gonna touch on that a lot in a few.
No,
But I do got a question for you before we get to the next. I touched on this on our last pod a lot, man. As an Eagles fan, it's really disappointing knowing the fact that you had two opportunities to put the division away and have an opportunity for this game not to mean anything. Like it wasn't so fact of the fact that we were mad at I can speak for myself and at least a few of the guys here where it wasn't more so the fact we were mad we lost the Saints game. Okay, it's you still got another opportunity to get done what you need to get done, but just disappointment of why you making this harder than it needs to be. So I must ask you, as a Giants fan, does it give you a little chuckle or does it make it feel a little better knowing that your franchise or your football team goes into this game and we could bench everybody? This game doesn't mean anything to us, but if we wanted to, we could play everybody and essentially ruined everything you guys worked for this season. And B, of course, I understand your feelings and how you think that the team may sit everybody, but just dating back to that situation a few years ago when Doug and I know this is a new regime and everything, but when Doug kind of pulled the plug on the game in the middle of a game where the Giants could have got into the playoffs, at least as a fan of the Giants, does this game kind of mean anything to you?
Yeah, I gives me great joy to know that the Giants could throw a wrench into the plans for the Eagles. Obviously, hate the Eagles. But I kind of for B different regimes on both sides at this point, but it's a matter of I feel like kind of going like, oh, like we should go in there and just screw up their plans. I feel like that's kind of a dumb decision to do because, again, I'd prefer that you be healthy for the playoffs. Both teams have a spot secured. Both teams can play. I'd prefer you be healthy. I could also see an approach of going like, hey, we're going to play our starters for a little bit just so they don't have 2 weeks between games and then have to come back and play a playoff game. I'm cool with either side. I just want to see a smart decision made for the players that aren't fully healthy. Like if a player is fully healthy and you play him and he gets hurt, I'm not going to sit here and go, Dable should have sat him, because I think that's just revisionist thought process, and it's just not productive for anybody. But for a guy where, let's say Adoree Jackson is 75%, I don't want him playing in this game, because if he does get hurt, then he's not going to play in the playoffs. And Giants secondary, I don't know if you know this, I'm going to steal what you guys just said, is hashtag not good. And so I don't want to see them in a situation where you take one of your few good players who isn't healthy, put him out there when he's not healthy, and then he gets hurt and misses the playoffs.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see with first year coaches which way they're going to go. Last year Sirianni rested our guys. Kind of like we felt a little bit more hope than you might be feeling this year because we went on that win streak, but we definitely just were not really a playoff team last year. We weren't really fully there. Jalen had matured as a quarterback. But Sirianni still decided to rest all the starters week 18. So it'll be really interesting to see how Dabo handles decisions like this. But I tend to agree with you. If the guy's on the edge, there's no reason to risk it right now. Might as well just get to the playoffs. And I mean, it's a big deal. It's the first time you guys have been to the playoffs since 2016? 16, yeah. I mean, long time, but
season 2017 game.
Okay, yeah. So, it's been a long time, and it's important, especially for a first year coach. I think getting to the playoffs, and even if you lose in the playoffs, just getting there and having that sense of belief that the team is able to get to that point, especially when it's been so long, is a really big deal, and should be commended. So we kind of like to go into and kind of give two players to watch in the game on both teams. We can go. What were you guys thinking? 1-1, or should we go 2-2? Like offense, or team.
You go 1-1.
1-1. Okay. So why don't we start with Brandon, and then we can go in a loop with Quell and Pierre, and then we can go with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Eagles, one thing that you have to watch for, obviously, Jalen Hurts is the easiest one of if he even plays, because obviously that matters. Fun fact: Jalen Hurts doesn't like me. That's a story for another time, though. But yeah, we'll talk about that off air. But Jalen Hurts has to be the guy for the Eagles. Just if he plays, if he doesn't, because you also deal with, you have to try to lock up the first seed. You won't know if you have the first seed because the 49ers also play at the same time, so it's not like a thing that really is going to be locked up. I do think that if he does play, it's just going to be another blowout. That's just how it is with the Eagles offensively with Jalen Hurts there. I want to say that I'm going to be just completely selfish here. Defensively, I want to see Reed Blankenship for the Eagles, because Reed Blankenship is someone who, since his sophomore year at Middle Tennessee State University, I've been a big fan of his, which, of course, the dude that I'm oh, yeah, I've been a fan of his for years. He goes to the Eagles. So Reed Blankenship's the guy. It's also the only time this entire season he's been asked to be a pass rusher, was the last time they played against the Giants. So I'm curious to see if that's just going to be we know they can't throw the ball effectively and efficiently against us, so we're just going to send people at us. And on the Giants side, I would like to see with Saquon what they're going to do, because Saquon is someone who has had a moderate injury history. He's got a little bit going on there, so I'd like to see if they play him, if they rest him, because you could play Jones and sit Barkley or any variation of that you want to work with. And defensively, I'm going to say Kayvon Thibodeau. I know that he's getting a lot of flack right now for the Snow Angels next to Nick Foles, who was on the ground this past week and then doing the little go to sleep thing. But he's picked up his play tremendously over the past month. He is really coming on strong right now. His attitude, just in interviews, he's I'm paid to be a savage, dude. That's what I'm going to do. You love that. That's awesome to see. And so someone has to be a wrecking crew against this Eagles offense. And I would hope that it would be Kayvon Thibodeau.
If I had to give two, well, I just said we can go 1-1, and I ended up thinking in my head while I was going
Just go
the
for it.
two players of the Giants, but I can give both to you at the same time, honestly. Assuming everything's all right on the injury front, my eyes immediately transfer for this game. It depends on how long they play, of course, with the Giants and their starters. But the battle along the interior, you guys know me, the offensive, defensive line junkie guy. I'm watching Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas. How does this work? The Eagles. I'm interested to see. I think I said what they were like 5 sacks away from setting the record for most
Five,
sacks
yeah.
in a season, most sacks in a single season for a single franchise. So, and I mean, I know Andrew Thomas in general has been phenomenal for much of the season. Has been really freaking good. Really, if not one of, if not the best tackle in football this year. Evan Neal, not so much. Now I know on your front, is you kind of hoping that it's kind of a similar transition that Andrew Thomas faced. I know Andrew Thomas was kind of up and down over at the start, and then eventually evolved to where he is now. So hopefully, at least as a draft guy, because I was big on Evan Neal coming out. Hopefully, there's a bit of the same trajectory with his career, but just that Eagles pass rush against the Giants, them tackles, man, that's the first thing I'm paying attention for. And I mean, of course, I know Daniel. It's interesting to me that you said how much the team wouldn't want to run him as much. It kind of makes me wonder how long, if any, that they play him, because if they're not going to move him and you playing against the Eagles team who essentially has to win this game, so they're playing a lot of their guys, and just the way that they've been getting after the quarterback over the last 3 or 4 games, they've been a terror for a quarterback. So I don't think you want to place your quarterback in position for that. So it'll just be interesting to see how that situation goes. Now on Philadelphia's front, I think my player to watch will probably be Kaiser White. Kaiser White started the season. I'm as those who know who tune into us quite frequently, they know I'm a big Kaiser White guy. Love my Kaiser White. We've been talking about making changes at the linebacker position, potentially moving the Kobe into being a starter. I've always been a big advocate of if you're gonna make that move TJ Edwards, not Kaiser White, because I like to think Kaiser White was the one linebacker that offered versatility. He was really good against the one to start the season. He was really good against the pass to start the season. Now, over the last few games, that has essentially changed, at least since he's returned from that injury. He hasn't been really good against the pass. I think he's given up over 100 yards over the last, what's that, 2, 3 games? Over 100 yards in the air. So just getting
They've
him
been
back.
targeting him.
Say that one more time.
Offenses have really just been like targeting him. It's like the whole middle area, and he's been, the.
So we had it's going to be big time getting Kaiser back to performing at the level he was by the time the playoffs start. And this game is going to be a huge step in that direction.
Yeah, I think for me, and I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna go one player on the Eagles and one player on the Giants. But I think for me on the Eagles side of things, the player I'm gonna be watching is gonna be Chauncey Gardner-Johnson if he does make his return. I know they did activate his practice window. I think earlier today, the swamp. Yeah. But me and Quell on Monday, we talked about it on the pod. Jonathan Gannon throughout the last few games, when he had Avonte Maddox, he moved them all around the defensive formation. He had him playing some safety, he had him playing some nickel. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think he's the perfect fit for that. So I just want to see, how Jonathan Gannon utilizes him, and Reed Blankenship, he's going to be healthy for this game. Also, sort of kind of seeing how they, mix and match those guys around in the secondary. And then on the Giant side of things, I think the guy I'm going to be watching probably is Darius Slayton. Just because of the last 2 weeks, how much the middle of the field has been targeted in Jonathan Gannon's defense, and Daniel Jones, he's a much better intermediate to short level passer than deep ball thrower, and to me that's where Darius Slayton feasts the most. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Those are good ones. Well, Chauncey was mine because I ordered a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson jersey. It came the week after he got injured. So been waiting, and I think I'm going to put a poll on Twitter. I need to know, like, if it's the time to pull it out or if it's, like, go back to the B doc and just like don't test your luck. I don't know. So we got to figure
Pull
these
it out
things
to the
out.
playoffs, and
No,
take
it out,
and
take it out,
learn.
take it out.
Don't pull it out yet. Not
No,
yet.
pull it. Wear it. You have to wear
You know what,
it.
Brandon? You telling me that tells me that it's staying in the closet. It is staying in the closet until this time. But actually, you know, I'll start with the Giants, and I'll start at the same position. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but my player to watch would be Xavier McKinney. You know, he wasn't playing last time, and last time the Eagles were able to torch the Giants through the air, as well as on the ground, but through the air as well. And so, especially with the amount of man Wink likes to run, especially on third down, it's going to be really big for them to have an impactful safety on the back end. So that'll be a player to watch. On the defensive side, offensively, got to look out for Kenny Golladay. I mean, big time contracts. That means he has to be one of the top players, right? Am I getting something wrong? No. I just think it's so funny. I make Kenny Golladay jokes all the time. It's hilarious, dude.
Because it's one of the worst contracts in football.
Bro,
good for him. Good for
I
him.
sat here and Paul, I had to look at. I tapped my screen like January 5th. It's 2023, right? I had to go check.
No, it's like September of like 2018 right now, and Kenny Golladay is on a tear on the Lions with Matthew Stafford throwing him the ball. I mean, what a time! You had to be there. You had to be there. But realistically, on offense, I think I'm gonna cheat and just go with the quarterback. You know, a lot is gonna tell on who plays. You know, Tyrod Taylor is also a competent backup, right? We have Minshew, but Tyrod Taylor is not a bad backup by any means. So similar style of offense you can play with both of them, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like what was saying, are they really gonna play him if they don't want him to rush as much, like you mentioned, Brandon? It's a lot of questions that'll go into that. So he's someone to watch offensively. Then offensively for the Eagles, I'm gonna cheat again and just say the entire offensive line. You know, last week was one of their. You know, it was an up and down performance. I'll put it that way. And I mean, the holding call on Dickerson just made no sense. I mean, Mailata said it best. He was like, the refs obviously never seen an effing pancake. Because it was just like, dude, like this is football. Like it was amazing. And so, you know, that whole touchdown got taken off the board. But you know, we don't have Lane Johnson, and that is really big, especially with Kayvon coming to town and having Jack Driscoll there. So I hope we play a lot more 12 personnel so we can, you know, have a little bit more support on the O-line there. But so, yeah, I think the O-line is there to watch. And even like Kelsey last week, he was like downfield on a pass play. It was just, he even said, like, they got a lot of stuff to clean up. So knowing those guys and knowing Stout, I have a feeling they're going to come out and have probably one of their best performances of the year. And I'm hoping for that. And then defensively, I think we've talked about mostly every group. But I think I'll say I'll say Slay and Bradbury. You know, I don't think Bradbury was able to get his interception last time. What?
I said that because he didn't get it. But I said when you said Slay and Bradbury, I made that faces. I'm like, they're not going to have any work. I mean,
I know.
They're just there. I don't.
We talked about the safeties. We talked about linebackers. We talked about D line. I got to think of something, man. Hey, Richie James had that nice little touchdown last time. So let's see if they can stop it this time. And Bradbury gave up his first deep ball of the season, I think, last game. Like I haven't seen him get beat deep very often.
Happened in my face, and I seen it, and I could not deny it. I haven't spoken on it. I don't plan to continue to speak on it because he's been phenomenal. But that was bad. That was really
was that one of the videos you got?
Worst. Nah, I didn't record that one, and for good reason.
He got smoked, bro.
It started at the release. At the release, I'm like, okay, maybe you can recover. But after a while, all I'm saying is Chris Olave, somebody here told y'all he was wide receiver 1.
He's been nice, man. Nice. Garrett Wilson's been nice too. I mean, those Ohio State boys, I gotta give it. Hartline's got them right, dude. I mean, That's
It's only just
hell
getting
of a
done.
receiver coach, man. But they'll go Gators, and I hate Ohio State. But yeah, so I think we got to go with the O line, and then and then the corners, because it's not like they've had their best performances. A lot of it comes down to defensive calls and being short staffed on the defensive end, if you want to look at it that way. Personally, I see it as calls. Quell knows this. But I just want to see them bounce back a little bit. We got the playoffs coming. We got the playoffs coming. Let's get a nice little shutdown game. Don't let anything get going, and give us a vintage Eagles defense performance.
Vintage JG.
Vintage Eagles performance as the team just left a game where they gave up 66 yards in the second half.
Bro,
where
you cannot start a game off
points.
like that. You can't start a game. You're lucky I wasn't on the podcast.
It's not about how you start, about how you finish, right?
No.
It is about how you start as well.
It is how you finish. It's about how you start as well, because you let this team get confidence. Andy Dalton was 14 for 14.
Brother, he gave them confidence and snatched it away. They was like, hey, you want this toy? Here, play with it. Give me this back. And the offense did nothing.
How'd that work with the Cowboys? Oh, we're going to take it back. Oh, wait, no, he took it back. He was perfect.
Okay, every coordinator has bad games.
Oh, my God.
I'm just saying, you know my views. We ain't got to get into this.
Bad games.
But
I want to be a head coach.
All I'm saying is you guys are the same people, and I still have it on record. You guys are the same people that was watching Jim Schwartz like, God, I can't wait till he's gone. I just hate these sticks defense and single coverage. This sucks. It's stupid.
I have never.
And now
he's
gone, and it's like, oh my god,
more than I did on 3rd and 30. I was like, stand at the sticks. Just stand at the sticks. It was 3rd and 30.
Maybe if Josiah Scott wasn't an idiot.
Oh my god, why is he having Josiah rotate so late?
That wasn't on him. That was Josiah's fault. What do you mean him? That was Josiah's fault. He decided to rotate late. Slade even said, why would you do that?
Can I say something?
Please.
The biggest thing that you could fault anybody for is putting Josiah Scott on a football field in the NFL. That's all I'm saying.
Josiah has not been that bad. Outside of the last 2 games.
He's led the team with picks since Chauncey went down. He has the most picks on the team since Chauncey went down. He's like 3. In like 5 weeks.
And TJ Ellis leads the team in tackles, but we're going to continue to call him a good football player. Give me a break, bro. Give me a break. Oh, my goodness, bro. You keep watching TJ Ellis drop back in the coverage then and tell me he's been fine.
I'm not talking in coverage.
And wait, Quell, who is that on? Who's making the decision to drop him in coverage?
The same idiot that dropped back Patrick Johnson. I'm not saying he's without fault. Right. I'm just saying he's not as bad as we try to. You guys try to make him seem.
All I know is I've watched Derek Carr pick this team apart. Okay, I watched Derek Carr do it, and the only difference in the defense in between last year and this year is talent. He got talent. That's it.
All I'm saying is Brandon's sitting right here telling me and telling you and telling Pierre about how his defense ain't got a lick of talent. He's begging to have the stuff the Eagles have. And I promise you, Wink Martindale, who blitzes every single play and do nothing but leave his cornerbacks on islands, when they give up the most completions over 30 yards in the league, it's going to be Giants fans like, he sucks, he stinks, even though the defense is going to be right in the top of the league. It's just part of the game. It's how it goes. You're going to always have something to complain about.
It doesn't need to look like that. Ask anyone in Philadelphia. They doesn't need to look like that. You're an apologist. Football does not need to look that disgusting, and I will stand by that for the rest of my life. I will die on that hill. Football on defense should be fun to watch. No, I don't want the big play to happen. Here, keep taking checkdowns all game. Oh my God, it's checkdown kingdom. I was surprised Kirk Cousins didn't hit as many checkdowns as he wanted. There was one game where they decided to play. My God,
what's your team's record?
Exactly. I sit here and I ask myself this every day.
We're spoiled.
I think that we're just bad sometimes.
We're spoiled, but my God, dude, these games don't need to look the way that they have. I had a bunch of stats for the podcast I was going to hop on after the Cowboys game, but I was at my grandparents' house. They wanted to watch the Batman, and so it was 3 hours of my day just taken away. So wasn't able to hop on, but I had my statistics, and now I don't have them. But Quell. We're going to see one day when JG gets his head coaching job. there's gonna be
Give
we're
me
gonna
2
care so
years.
much about this team that's not the Eagles. It's gonna be ridiculous, and
Give
I'm
them
gonna
2
be preying on their
years.
downfall.
Oh man, that's crazy.
But anyways, let's move into some questions about the Giants. We have an expert on the Giants right here. I want to start it off. You're a Gator fan. I'm a Gator fan. What happened with Kadarius?
Wandale.
What didn't happen with Kadarius? So, well, the Wandale thing was funny because they drafted Wandale, and I was doing a live stream when they drafted Wandale, and I was just like, this is weird because you have Kadarius Toney, so it's a very odd fit. And Brian Dable came out and he was just like, hey, we're going to build the offense around both of them. And that sounded really fun, especially if you're going to play a team like the Eagles twice a year, who just the defensive style that y'all play, like the middle of the field is open for checkdowns. Like you guys just had a whole rant about. So it's like if you have that kind of defense and you have Wandale Robinson and Kadarius Toney and Saquon Barkley who could all just go short over the middle and pick up yardage for themselves, that's awesome. And then Kadarius, he kept doing his little antics that he does, showing up to practice without cleats on and just weird stuff like that. And then he was hurt, and he didn't play for a bit. And then he got traded, and suddenly, miraculously, perfectly healthy right away.
The hand was fine in a week. It had been healing up until that point. It was just coincidence.
Yeah, it was just pure coincidence.
Wait, hold on, not to cut you off. I don't know if any of y'all are wrestling fans. I know Quell is, but you guys ever seen the video when Kevin Nash is in the wheelchair and he just popped the blanket off?
The blanket. Yeah, that's what Kadarius did. He just threw the blanket off and he just came onto the field for the Chiefs. And I don't know if it was that he was unhappy like with the Giants organization or being in New York, or he didn't like the offense or whatever it is, but it's very clear that Kadarius Toney didn't want to be a New York Giant. I think that
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My whole thing when they drafted Wandale was they're the same player. Why did you I understand new regime, you go get your guy, but y'all just spent 2 first-round picks in a row on the same player.
I genuinely think I'm sorry. I genuinely think that Brian Dable wanted to build an offense around both of them. I don't think it was anything like I don't think that this was like any kind of like an ill will operator. I genuinely think Brian Dable was like, hey, we want to just get the ball short over the middle. That's what they did a lot with Josh Allen. They kept the ball short over the middle a lot, and then let Josh Allen do Josh Allen things. It's like Brian Dable likes to do that. They also brought in, who's their offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka from the Chiefs. What do they like to do? Get the ball short over the middle and let your playmakers make plays and then take your deep shots. I genuinely think that Brian Dable and Joe Shane and everybody with the Giants was like, hey, we want to have both Kadarius Toney and Wandale Robinson. And I think that for whatever reason, Kadarius didn't want to be a Giant. I'm not going to speculate as to why, but I think it's very clear that Kadarius wanted out by the way that he got traded, not even like 20 minutes later, started talking trash to Giants fans on Twitter. He was like, I'm healthy. I'm good to go. Let's do it. Like, you guys don't even really know the situation and all that stuff. So I'm not going to, spend time like trying to guess why Kadarius was unhappy. I thought when they made the Wandale pick, it was questionable because of them being similar players. Right. Later that weekend, Brian Dable said, we want to build the offense around both of them. And I believe that to be true. I don't think Brian Dable has been the kind of guy that's really lied or used coach speak too often. Like I think he's said what he wants. And so I think he wanted to build the offense around the both of them because I think that'd be incredibly dynamic and explosive while also being safe and conservative with a quarterback like Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor as your backup. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, and I think your last point about Dayball when you touched on him, I think that bled over into one of my first questions. Just overall, how have you seen like the organizational like direction shift under him? Like just the total impact that he's had.
It's awesome. It like I feel like it's hard to tell if a coach is going to work out early on. Like you could tell if they're not going to work out early on. Like it was like week 2, and I was talking with Lauren Cox from Locked On Chicago Bears, and we were talking about Nathaniel Hackett. We were like, you can pretty early tell when things aren't going to work out there, but it's hard to tell when they are going to work. I think Brian Dable is one of the few people where he showed up and it immediately felt like a legitimate instant culture change. Like you knew that you had someone who's going to be creative offensively and get the most out of your guys. He's proven he put together a great coaching staff behind him. Big fan of the Mike Kafka hire. He brought Shea Tierney, who's one of his very low level assistants from Buffalo that I wanted him to bring, which was awesome that he did. And it just ended up being a good situation. Wink Martindale, not my kind of defensive coordinator. It's just I'm just not a big fan of the super aggressive style. But if you can pull it off, then you can pull it off, and that's cool. But yeah, I think that it's been awesome. I love the confidence that Brian Dable has, and just that he expresses himself. Like last week, Daniel Jones ran in a touchdown, and Brian Dable like ran up to him and like gave him a big hug, and it was like awesome to see. You look at the Titans game, week 1, going for it on fourth, the 2-point conversion to win the game, and they ran a shovel to Saquon Barkley. Like, if that ain't letting them hang, then I don't know what is. Like that is just that's the kind of style that you love to see. So I think it's stuff like that where it seems like a smart but aggressive approach that we haven't seen from the Giants in a long time, and I'm just happy to see something different than, Tom Coughlin, Ben McAdoo, Jason Garrett's play calling, like all this. Hey guys, we're gonna go under center, 12 personnel. We're just gonna run it up the middle on first down, second down, and then we're gonna have to throw it deep on third down. So it's just nice having some creativity and a very different style of play for New York Giants football.
So it's interesting that you said that. Actually, it kind of leads into one of my questions. So Saquon Barkley has a big contract extension coming up. It's no secret, no surprise. And while you just said it's nice to see something new, something refreshing in terms of offensively for the Giants under Dabble, historically, and I mean, I've been following Dabble for a while. Historically, Dabble's not really that guy. I mean, he got his hands on Josh Allen and turned himself into a new person. I like to explain it. But when you historically follow Dabble, he's run first, get his hands on a really good running back, build the offense around him kind of guy. Even when you look back at some of his time when he was at Alabama in the college games, with always top tier running back, trying to build the offense around that type of thing. So, given his historical preference to build the offense around the running back, and rumors going around that the Giants would prefer to get Saquon signed to a multi-year deal, as well as Daniel Jones. We'll talk about that later. Yet the team spent the first round pick on Wandale Moore, and you just sat here and touched on how he was generally interested in building an offense around both of those players. What is your synopsis of what do you think the Giants offense looks like for not necessarily this year, but for the particular future? Do you think that it's a team where Saquon is a featured back, where you're talking about an Adrian Peterson, Derrick Henry style of offense, get him the ball 300 plus touches a year type of thing? Or do you think he's just another key to a cog at some point? He's just using what he got right now.
I think it's a combination of them both. I think long term, they want Saquon to be a focal point of the offense. Like I mentioned, like I'm tired of the whole like just take the ball first and second down and run it up the middle. I think that's one of the biggest things with Brian Dable is that the running game has been creative. I think he took part of that from Mike Kafka because the running game in Buffalo under Dable wasn't nearly as creative as it has been for the Giants this year. Maybe that's because you're more limited at quarterback, so you're going to do more with Daniel Jones and get more creative and stuff like that. But like watching a wide zone style, but also with pinpole concepts being thrown into it is awesome from Brian Dable. And I think that's a big thing where it's Mike Kafka calling the plays as well. So it's Dable obviously has his hand on the offense and has his hand on everything, but it's Mike Kafka calling the plays where I do think that they're like, hey, we have a truly great running back on our roster right now, and we want to run the ball a lot, but we also understand this is now 2023 in the NFL. You need to be able to throw the ball, and the best way to throw the ball without taking unnecessary risks or chances is to have playmakers underneath that you can just get the ball to in space and let them create plays. So I think that was the point with keeping Kadarius Toney, which they wanted to do, I believe. Drafting Wan'Dale Robinson. Kenny Galladay is just putting a square in a round hole there. Like, it ain't gonna work. But even then, like, it's hard to, like, I know we make fun of Kenny Galladay, but it's like Kenny Galladay was signed under a different GM for a different head coach with a different style. So now Kenny Galladay doesn't fit at all, and no one's going to touch him. No one wants him. Maybe this will be one of those times where, it's not going to happen with the Eagles specifically, but the Eagles tend to, trade a 5th round pick for a veteran, and he ends up starting, and everyone's like, Howie's the best ever. Maybe that's something that happens with a team trades for Kenny Galladay, and he ends up working out. And it's like, he's just not a fit for this offense. He's not a fit for this style. I still think he's a solid football player. I'm not going to be like, oh, he's worse. He's unhappy there. He's very clear he's unhappy there. He doesn't like anything that's happening in New York. Little worrisome that there's just like receivers are unhappy here. But it's a thing where I think this team wants to run the football. They want to build around Saquon. As far as giving him 300 touches, I don't know if that's going to be in the cards, just giving his injury experience. I think that they've done a pretty good job of handling him and managing him and getting him out of the game for extended periods of time, getting him fresh and putting him back in. But I think that, this team wants to build around Saquon and, unfortunately, Daniel Jones.
So, they want to build Daniel Jones, right? But what are the chances of him, being, extended for a while? Like, I mean, you don't like we kind of talked about, like, he can be a good bridge quarterback, right? That's what Quell was saying. Like, do you think there's any capital invested in, like, maybe even flyers in the 2nd or 3rd round, or is there's really just organizational commitment to Daniel Jones?
I hope to God it's not organizational commitment to Daniel Jones. I can tell you that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It made me curious because I asked both of them this before we got on, at least in the messages. Well, as soon as both of them asked their questions, because they're the same thing. They're really similar in the same process, actually. But it intrigued me. How much do you think Dabble raises Jones's ceiling along with Parf's question? On top of course, I've heard your likings. We've all heard your likings on Daniel Jones, and you just said you hope it's not a franchise quarterback. So I guess, again, how long is his leash? What are we talking about in terms of a potential contract?
If I'm the Giants, I give Daniel Jones, he's going to make, upwards of $18 million. That's what an average quarterback gets in the NFL, and he's had a good year. The production shouldn't shock anybody, by the way. Like him having the year that he's having shouldn't shock anybody. That was a thing that came with Brian Daboll. I wrote an article about it in like July. I was like, he's going to have the highest passing yards and rushing yards of his career. We got a game left, and he's done both of those. I think he gets like a 2-year deal. And it's essentially a prove it deal, but not really prove it because it's 2 years. It gives you that extra time. If I'm the Giants, I also draft a quarterback. I thought that was part of the reason of signing Tyrod Taylor to a 2-year deal this past offseason is you have 1 year with Daniel Jones. If he doesn't work out, then you have a year with a rookie quarterback backing up Tyrod Taylor, and then you have your safety net there. I don't think that Daniel Jones will ever be a top 10 quarterback, which is the main reason that I don't like him for the Giants. Like, it's not that I think he's terrible, but he's never going to be a top 10 quarterback unless he has absolutely elite talent at every position around him. And if you need that to be a top 10 quarterback, then guess what? You're not a top 10 quarterback. So it's not that I hate Daniel Jones. I'm fine with him being a bridge guy, but he's never going to be your franchise quarterback. And that's why I'm just against extending him for a long period of time. Daniel Jones, as far as with Brian Daboll raising his ceiling, I think he raises his ceiling a lot by just helping him limit mistakes. Because that's the thing with Daniel Jones. He's always been adequate with a lot, but he just turns the ball over a ton. And I think that that's the biggest thing with Brian Daboll, where you make him significantly better because you limit his mistakes. But you're still not good enough. Like, if you make it even to the 2nd round of the playoffs, you're not going to make it much farther once things get serious. And you can make that same point with the 49ers, I think, right now. Like Brock Purdy's doing a good job. He's getting a lot of help from the scheme that's going around with Shanahan. Is he your franchise guy? Because I don't think anybody is like, oh yeah, Brock Purdy's. Sorry, I don't think anybody is genuinely saying, yeah, Brock Purdy's the guy. I think everybody. I think a lot of people are going like, oh, he could do the job for now, but he's never going to be the guy for your team. And that's what it is to Daniel Jones. Like you can get the job done for now, and that's fine. But I will never be like, oh, we have Daniel Jones. I'm not going to look at another quarterback. Like, no, like you're going to turn your head. You're going to look around. You're going to keep your eyes open and see what's out there. And look, when you have Brian Dable and Mike Kafka on your staff, Brian Dable helped Josh Allen become who Josh Allen is. I know a lot of that was also Josh Allen going to quarterback trainers in the offseason and really working on his mechanics and developing that way. But Brian Dable helped Josh Allen become Josh Allen. Mike Kafka joined later in the cycle, but got to see Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes and really flourish and become Patrick Mahomes. I can't look at the draft and think they're not going to swing on a high ceiling quarterback. Like that seems to be the type where you've got two guys who have seen it done with Patrick Mahomes was raw and he became great. I don't know why you're making that face at me, but then you saw Josh Allen coming out was raw, and you saw him become great. So I think they take a swing. I don't know. Are you looking at me?
Because I am. I'm looking at everybody. I am. Because hearing you talk, everything you say, and I'm pretty sure all of us here are all along on the same path. I mean, I just dropped my offensive rankings the other day, and I know that we all know I got him listed at quarterback 3. But all I hear you talking and saying is, I just think Dabble could swing on Will Levis, and that's his kind of guy. It wouldn't surprise me.
No, not Will Levis.
That's all I'm hearing you say. That's all you are saying. High level talent, the little arm talent, mold him to be a better
I'm okay with that. As long as Anthony is not in the division, I'm okay with it. You guys can have Will Levis, dude. You saw that video of him throwing the football. Like he can throw it really hard.
Okay, I'm gonna stick with my thing that I've said about Will Levis for a while now. He puts mayo in his coffee, and he eats banana. He eats bananas with the peel on.
Ew.
Because he has to. Without that, he's not an interesting person, and he's not an interesting quarterback. He has to do that to get you to care about him and get you to feel something about him.
Eat a banana with the peel on?
Yes, he eats a banana with the peel on. And he eats it like, if this is the banana, like he eats it like through the middle. Like he's weird. Yes. So he does that and he puts mayo in his coffee because he has to be interesting. He could do the little TikTok things and be super cool. He's not a good quarterback. I will die on that hill. Quell, I know that you said
I don't think he's a good quarterback.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm saying you said you scout. You said you scout. I scout as well, doing NFL draft stuff. The thing that really kills me with Will Levis and Parth, you can maybe chime in on this one. I saw Will Levis play really bad football against two of the worst Florida Gator defenses that I've ever seen, and that really kills me. Todd Grantham was horrible, and Will Levis sucked against him.
Yeah.
After Tony, I love him. I know a lot of people feel differently about him. Parth, I'm assuming that you don't love him so much because it's like kind of similar to the Jonathan Gannon style. A lot
of quarters, but he puts more pressure though. I appreciate that he at least blitzes sometimes.
Okay, thank you for this information. He just genuinely hates the defense. He's trying to tell me that. Okay,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking it is. It's a similar style to Jonathan Gannon. Like it's a lot of quarters coverage and all that stuff. But I've seen Will Levis be horrible against two of the worst Florida defenses that I've ever seen. And I just, when I watch him play, I'm like, this dude will not be a franchise quarterback. Could be, but I think the way he's got to go is so far. He's got the physical tools. Dope. Yeah. You're not going to be good is my point with Will Levis. So no, I'm not talking get Will Levis. I'm talking get someone like Anthony Richardson, who's just got a bazooka for an arm and is a freak athlete. And I compare to Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming. When Josh Allen was coming out of Wyoming, I was not high on him. I was like, this dude is big, throws nothing but 90-mile-an-hour fastballs. And as cool as it is and as fun as the screenshot is, I never want to see my quarterback hurdle someone. I never want to see that in my life. So Josh Allen
Speaking of
doing that,
earlier.
Anthony Richardson doing that, especially Anthony Richardson. That
He
boy
was
is
like crazy.
sometimes, but I never want to see you do that. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, you take a swing like that. I don't want you touching Will Levis. I don't. Please don't. Anybody but Will Levis.
So who's your ideal quarterback? Because you've talked about on the Locked On podcast, right? Because I agree with your point. If Anthony thought the Gainesville media was a lot and too much to deal with, New York media is a whole nother beast. So taking that into account, those types of things. Who is your ideal quarterback that you guys take next year, take a swing on, and that's your guy?
So I think the thing, and I know that I know obviously what you're talking about with me saying that the media scares him, the pressure scares him, then it's going to be way different with New York media, because obviously New York media is a different beast. I will also say, though, that I think part of what got to Anthony Richardson is he's a Gainesville kid.
Yeah.
And so the hometown pressure, like it's not necessarily just like media getting to him. It's the pressure of being from Gainesville, going to East Side High School, being labeled as Gainesville's very own, having the Heisman hope immediately when you did nothing to deserve it. I think stuff like that just gets to his head, where that's why he played better on the road. I don't know. I've kind of come around to the fact that maybe he can handle not like New York media or LA media or like a large scale media place, and it's more just the internal pressure of being a Gainesville kid.
That's a really good point.
To find success in Gainesville,
because I mean that is the city of Gainesville. Yeah, the city of Gainesville is Gatorland. You know what I mean? Like if you're from there, and I mean he grew up. I mean he's like around the same age as me, so he grew up watching Tim Tebow, and he wears number 15. Like it's a ton of pressure, especially for a Gainesville kid. So that's a really good point. So I mean, I'm hoping that he does not go to the Giants, that he goes as far away from the Giants as possible. I'm hoping that the Dolphins maybe grab him in the second with that with that pick they got. I think Tua needs to retire.
If AR does go to the Giants, he's still got to take significant strides. So
honestly, I think that'd be the perfect landing spot, because I mean, while we just sat here and I just told y'all my thought process on Daniel Jones, perfect bridge quarterback, all things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could learn. He could actually sit and learn from under Daniel Jones. He could sit, watch Daniel Jones run the offense, get comfortable within the offense. Because it actually looks like Jones is comfortable in this offense right now. And like just basically learn all that from him to see what it takes to take the bigger leap. I know he's going to need reps at some point, because that's my big thing with Malik Willis right now. He's going to need reps at some point. But I also said, I think Anthony is a 2, maybe 3-year project at the quarterback position. And if you work with him enough, if he lands in a proper spot, you may very well get your hands on another Josh Allen. He has that same, like, I agree with your sentiment. Has the same skill set, rocky forearm, mobile skill set. He really mobile, like 6'4", really big body. He fits the mold for franchise quarterback that these guys like. He's perfect, but he just hasn't got. A lot of us like to blame it on the reps. That makes sense, but he just has so much to figure out at the quarterback position. Like, honestly, just listening to you, what you just said about the pressure that's on the Gainesville media, all that stuff, I wonder how much of a factor that played in him just leaving. But that's very interesting.
But I mean, when you look at him and you say, "Oh, like he's a 2 or 3 year project," so was Josh Allen when he came out. Like so, and Josh. The thing with Josh Allen was like reps wasn't really the concern with him, because he was a starter, like he was an established starter and all that. Where it's like Anthony Richardson, like that's one of the reasons where I've talked about Anthony Richardson. That's like it was a good decision for him to go to the draft, because he's Josh Allen raw. Like he's big arm, mobile. We could use the same adjectives we want all the time. I'm tired of saying it myself. Like we could use all the adjectives, but the thing was he had 1 year of starter tape, and it wasn't good tape. But you could at least go, but this is what
He
he
got
could become.
flashes.
Yeah, you can go look at the flashes, look at what he becomes. If he came back to Gainesville and had another year like he had this year or a slightly better year, then it really becomes, well, can he become that, or is this just who he is? So that's why when people give Anthony Richardson a whole bunch of crap for declaring for the draft, I'm like, no, like that was a smart, calculated decision. Like he should have gone because he is all mystery right now. And that's the biggest thing he has. Even Will Levis, like people talk about, well, he's a project quarterback. He needs to take these strides, but he's got these tools. He's got 2 years of starter experience. You've got 2 years of tape to watch what he did. And it was under different offensive coordinators, which you could say that's a kind of downswing to him that hurts him, whatever. But you could also say like two different schemes we saw him in, and he didn't play great in either of them. And so that's the concern. At least Anthony Richardson, you have so much of first year starting, first year with a new head coach in this system. Like there's a lot that goes in the favor of going, we'll give Anthony Richardson the benefit of the doubt. And that's why I think it was such a good idea for him to go to the draft.
Makes sense. And I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, even Jalen Hurts was a 2-year project, right? I mean, this is his 3rd year starting, or not 3rd year starting, but 2nd year starting, 3rd year in the league. You know, he got some reps at the end of his first year, but you know, last year was his first year starting, and that was an up and down process as well. So we've talked about it before, but the most important thing when it comes to a quarterback making a team or even just finding success is just top to bottom organizational commitment. Needs to be everywhere. Receivers, line, running back, everyone, and then up higher, you know, coaches, GMs, ownership is important too, because you don't want pressure from the owner on the GMs and all that type of thing. Like you need to just Jalen Hurts was able to win him over, you know, like Jeffrey Lurie last year was just like, oh yeah, like, you know, this guy's special, you know, we want to give him time, and he was able to do the same thing with Howie. And so, you know, just getting that support is so crucial for those guys. So I hope, you know, wherever Anthony goes, he gets it, because we have not had a good Florida quarterback in the league, you know, for a while. So
get in line. It sucks, wasn't it?
I know, man.
Yeah,
We're good. We've powerhouse programs.
We've had some good quarterbacks from Florida. They've just never gone from Florida to the NFL.
Right.
Exactly. You know,
Jacoby's
you
out there holding it down.
Jacoby Brissett. You've had a few guys
down right now. He's holding it down. Even I saw Felipe was getting some reps. It was the other week. That was gross. Just move to tight end, dude.
That's the Felipe package. It's a Felipe package.
I get you. I try. Well, at this rate, me saying, Ohio, who says Ohio State can't produce quarterbacks? Y'all see Joe Burrow?
Yeah, right. That's how it is.
Who's counting? Cam Newton? Ever heard of him? He's a Gator.
Florida hasn't had a good quarterback. Florida had the 2015 MVP. What are you talking about?
I know that's right, man.
Oh man. Well, anyways. Go ahead.
One more question for you. Throughout, you know, this pod, you know, you've talked about your disdain for Daniel Jones and how much you don't want the Giants to really, you know, re-sign him and have him as their franchise quarterback. But I don't think it'd be a stretch to say that this year has been his best year in the NFL. So from your perspective, what do you think has changed for him this year? Despite losing a lot of his weapons, you know, he still seemed to be, you know, very effective. Why do you think that is?
The thing, aside from like just like scheme, the biggest thing for Daniel Jones has been he looks more comfortable in the pocket than he ever has. That's easily it. Like he looks more comfortable in the pocket and more confident than he's ever looked. But that only takes you so far. Like you still have just things that you lack to be the franchise quarterback. But aside from just saying like, oh, like they could draw up open receivers and that stuff, genuinely his pocket presence has been significantly improved. He still holds the ball a little too long sometimes, but you can watch a Giants game and you can actually see Daniel Jones go through progressions, which we never really saw him do before. You can see him go through progressions. He's behind the best offensive line he's ever played behind, which they still have quite a bit of flaws, but the best offensive line he's ever played behind. But he looks more confident as a quarterback than he's ever looked, and it's not even close. It's so clear Daniel Jones is more confident than ever. Maybe that's because he's got a scheme around him that isn't 1990s high school stuff. Maybe because he's got a better offensive line from a coach that he knows is a scheme guy and will help things happen. But whatever it is, he looks more comfortable in the pocket by a huge margin than he's ever looked. He's taking care of the football better. He's not just standing there and getting demolished and fumbling the football. He's not having Jamal Adams literally run up and just take it from him. So he looks better. Yeah, sorry to remind you that he looks better in the pocket than he's ever looked, and that's easily the biggest thing. His pocket presence is something that I said was his biggest flaw going into the year. So to see that now be one of his strengths is an awesome turnaround, and that's great for him. But yeah, I think his biggest thing has easily been the pocket presence. He looks more comfortable than ever.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. I mean, since we touching on, I feel like we touched a lot on the offensive side of the ball. You said something earlier that caught my attention when you was talking about Wink not necessarily being your kind of guy. We talked before we went on air, and we've touched on it, even during me and Parth's rant. Clearly, the Giants' defense is devoid of talent, and I'm sorry. I love KT. I love Leonard Williams. I love Xavier McKinney. I think those are good football players. I don't think Julian Love is a good football player, but I love Julian Love. So let's just go with that. Been a big fan of him for a while. That said, I mean, we kind of had, like I just said, we had the whole Jonathan Gannon argument. And even despite what Parth's saying now, there was a year ago where we talked about this defense and we sat here and said we see the vision. We just don't have the players to execute what we want to execute. Watching Wink, I see a lot of the same things. I see the vision. You just don't have the players in place to execute. But with that said, the Giants' defense hasn't been bad. So how do you think Wink has been able to get the most out of this unit, being so blitz heavy, especially with the weaknesses at corner and linebacker? And does it make it a safe bet to assume the Giants will probably go cornerback in round one?
I hope they do. I will tell you, I hope they go corner round one, maybe even round two also, and just get some talent in there. But yeah, no, I think that Wink's done a solid job of getting the most from them. I think that a big part of the success has been having such a strong defensive front where, you could blitz and not hit home, and then you're just screwed. The Giants, one of the reasons that their defense has not been horrible, like it was like Wink last year, he had all these injuries and his defense sucked with the Ravens, but that's because he had all the injuries, all the corner issues and everything. Now you're looking at him with the Giants and he's still got the injuries in the secondary, but the front is relatively healthy. The front is, I think the New York Giants had Florida Gators. I think the New York Giants have a very strong defensive front. Like I love Dexter Lawrence, who I was very low on when he was coming out of Clemson. But I love what he does now. I like Leonard Williams, and I was very low on him when the Giants traded for him. I liked them coming out of USC, but when they traded for him, I was like, okay, like he wasn't doing much. And then Kayvon Thibodeau is just a freak. Azeez Ojulari, when he's healthy, is a freak. It's having good defensive linemen, like good interior defensive linemen, whether you want to call them DNs or D tackles, I don't care. They're lining up inside of an outside linebacker. So they're interior defensive linemen. So having guys there, having good outside linebackers and having athletic outside linebackers has been a big thing, where that's one of the reasons last year the Ravens drafted Odafe Oweh, was because it was like, okay, well, he's really freaking fast. He's raw, but he's really freaking athletic. So when we send him on these blitzes that are designed to get free rushers, he's going to get home really quickly. And so that's one of the things where, yeah, Giants secondary, not the best. Definitely not the best. I love Xavier Kinney. I like Julian Love. I'm not going to say I love him. I like Julian Love. I think he's okay. I will say Julian Love is the kind of guy, when he was coming out of Notre Dame, I viewed him the same way that I viewed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, where I was like, I think he's going to be an awesome nickel. He just hasn't been playing nickel. So guess I was wrong. But I think that you got to really add talent to the secondary there, and that's the biggest thing. I don't like Wink's defense. It's not my style. It's not that I think it's bad. It's just not my style. I am more of like the Jonathan Gannon, Patrick Toney type. Like I like quarter coverage. I like not being super aggressive. Maybe sending a fifth rusher every now and then. Don't shake your head. It works. But I like that's my style of defense. So I like it. If Wink wants to do that, I understand it. Like I see the thought process behind it. My issue is that you have to have really good football players in order to do it. And I think it's really hard to do. Like I think that the Eagles defense, you could work without elite talent throughout. I think that if you're looking at a Wink Martindale defense, you need to have elite talent in that secondary in order to work. And we saw the Ravens do that consistently. The Ravens had Jimmy Smith when he was awesome. They had Ladarius Webb when he was awesome. They had, Ladarius Webb was before Wink, but they had these guys like Marcus Peters coming in. They had Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith. They had these guys that were great outside corners. Giants don't have that. We'll see if when they do have that talent, if they can actually put it together. But I'm just not a fan of going, we need the perfect players that are very good at this in order to be able to do it, because the odds that you can get, we'll say 16 guys on a defense that can do that, because odds are you're going to have injuries and people need to rotate. Needing 16 guys that can do this at a high level is too much of an ask from me. But if you can do it, great. And I feel like with a defense like Wink Martindale, it's one of those defenses where when you do put it all together and you have those great players, everyone's going to say, oh, on paper at the start of the season, this is an awesome defense. And then one injury happens and it all just crumbles. So that's one of the reasons that I don't like this style. But if you can get the corners, which you should draft corners early and often, so be it. And even a safety to go with Xavier McKinney.
It's just funny that you say that. Sorry. I was just about to say, it's just funny that you say that, because I have some of the same complaints about this defense, that if you don't have the elite talent at certain positions, Qual and I have talked about it.
That's every system.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't have a nose tackle in this system, then you're hosed. You know, your defense is fully chalked. But I digress. Don't need to get into all of that again. But thank you so much, Brandon. Really appreciate you hopping on with us. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate your podcast every day. First listen of the day, every day. But thank you again for coming on. Hope you lose this weekend, obviously, so that we can get this number one seed locked up. But we'll have to have you on next season when we play again. And thanks so much. And give any plugs that you want to for all your stuff, so that you can get the good people to follow you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This was awesome, by the way. But Twitter is WNS_Brandon. You can find Locked On Gators. I must have Locked On Giants. Sorry, Patricia. Locked On Gators on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And GiantsCountryWithSI.com is every week content.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everyone who's listening. You guys all know the drill.
Go get them dollars.
Exactly. Like, listen, subscribe, and then go to the Apple Store. Brandon, this is something we have. If you want to do it, you can. You'll get $6. 2 from me, 1 from Quell, 3 from Pierre. You have to go to the Apple Store.
Coach said he got $4. He ain't here, but he ain't out of it.
Look at that. That's 10. That's 10 right there. You have to go to the Apple Store. Every single device. Open up the podcast and just stream them on there and get 5 stars from every single phone there. $10 to your name. So stands for any listeners as well. But in all honesty, just please like, listen, rate, review, and subscribe, and just share it with your friends. We like to think that it's pretty good content, and make sure you let your friends know about it, so that we can all get ready for this big playoff run for all of our teams. But for all of us, go Birds.
Go Birds.
Not me, all them. Just one time.
I was about to say,
I was going to say, is he going to let it go? Is he going to let it go?